You famously said regarding Hillary Clinton, lock her up. You declined to do that as president.
I beat her. It's easier when you win. And they all said lock her up. And I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you, I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay. Then we won. And I said pretty openly, I say, all right, come on, just relax. Let's go. We got to make our country great.
Yeah.
And it would have been, think of it, you lock up the wife of a president of the United States.
But they want to lock you up over $130,000 of an accounting thing, and
a perfectly stated accounting thing. But people also say, can you bring the country together? And the answer is yes. Success will bring the country together because I had it together.
That was the high road. It was back in 2016 he was referring to. Of course, there was a Politico article quoting him saying that he didn't want to drag the Clintons through this. He didn't want to drag the country through this. Let's just move on together. And that was the end of it. But indeed, it was not. Mike Davis is here, founder of the Article 3 Project. Maybe, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe Trump's next attorney general. I don't know. I'm not going to put that on you, Mike, but I'll throw it out there. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and I always say I can't get confirmed as the attorney general. I'm just too charming, but I think I want to be Trump's viceroy because then I don't have to be accountable to courts and Congress.
That's it. The cross you bear. I'm too charming of a man. Sir, we just talked to our previous guest, and we're talking about what if a conservative DA somewhere across the country maybe threw some charges against Tony Fauci, right? There's evidence that Fauci went around some Freedom of Information Act requests. That's a crime. Maybe we go, we try to throw him in jail. And the punishment is the process. The process is the punishment. What the heck? Might as well go for it. And he said that would be a terrible idea. It's what ended Rome, the Roman Republic, and we should never go down that road. What do you think about that?
Look, I like Coley Stenson from the Heritage Foundation. He's a very good guy. I think that he's being a little bit too quaint here. The Biden Democrats have already crossed the Rubicon with their Republic ending Democrats, lawfare, and election interference. They've gone after Trump. They've gone after his top aides like Peter Navarro, who's sitting in prison right now, and Steve Bannon, who they want to put in prison. They've gone after his lawyers like Jeff Clark and John Eastman. They've gone after his January 6th supporters. They've even gone after parents outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They've gone after Christians praying outside of abortion clinics. They put them in prison for doing that. Little old Christians under the FACE Act, while they've given amnesty to Joe Biden and James Biden and Hunter Biden, every scumbag Biden who has taken at least $20 million, according to House Oversight Chairman James Comer, from it seems like every corrupt foreign entity has gone in to the Biden bank accounts. They give amnesty to BLM and Antifa and Hamas and trans terrorists and abortion industry activists. No. The only way this ends, and Republicans need to wake up to this, they want to say, oh, we're better than this. How this ends is to give the Democrats a healthy dose of their own medicine. Today's Democrats aren't liberals who love America and just disagree with the conservatives, and the best way to get there, they're leftists, and they only respect power. So we need to give them power.
I'll throw in there all the prosecutions against the fake electors across the country, which are just the backup electors, but they're going hard after all of them in many different states. Okay, what does that look like, Mr. Davis? Give me some examples of what that looks like and back at them.
Well, maybe I've thought about this a bit, but I would say that right now, the House Republicans need to find their backbones, and they need to start opening investigations immediately, and they need to issue subpoenas for documents, for staff depositions, and for witnesses for public hearings, and gather the evidence now, like the January 6th Kangaroo Commission did against Trump and his top aides and his supporters. Gather that evidence now. You do have a legislative purpose that Biden Democrats are using federal funds to wage this criminal conspiracy against Trump, his top aides, his supporters. They've also deprived Trump and his allies of their constitutional rights to due process and equal protection. At the federal level, you have the Fifth Amendment. So there's the legislative purpose there for House Republicans. At the state level, You have the 14th Amendment for equal protection and due process, and Section 5 of the 14th Amendment specifically gives Congress the power to enact legislation. So there's your legislative purpose. You can also open an impeachment probe and gather even more evidence and get around executive privilege or whatever privileges that the Biden White House and the Biden Justice Department want to put up. And then state attorneys general and local DAs like the Florida Attorney General Moody and the Georgia Attorney General Carr and Rachel Mitchell, my former colleague out in Maricopa County, Arizona. This criminal conspiracy against Trump and his top aides and supporters is at many different levels. Jack Smith, Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, Tish James, Nathan Wade. I mean, there are a lot of, at a minimum, fact witnesses of this criminal conspiracy to violate constitutional rights for the purposes of interfering in the election and to wage Democrat lawfare to destroy your political enemies, this selective prosecution, persecution. There are many, many different hooks. And then when the Trump 47 Justice Department gets into office on the first day, on January 20th, 2025, Trump's acting attorney general must open a criminal probe immediately on this criminal conspiracy to violate constitutional rights. And that's under 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and 18 U.S.C. Section 242. So there's your game plan. It's not that hard. You start issuing subpoenas now.
Wow, I didn't know I didn't know you were going to go specifically to Joe Biden and specifically for this. I love it. What crime did someone commit here? Obviously, all this stuff is wrong, but what crime do you think Joe Biden or these people at the top committed?
Well, there are many, but I can think of two that I just mentioned. There are federal civil rights felony statutes that are on the books right now, 18 U.S.C. 241 and 18 U.S.C. 242. And when you politicize and weaponize our intel agencies and our justice system to go after your political enemies, when you put illegal, unconstitutional gag orders on criminal defendants, when you don't provide fair notice of what the charges are, if you don't provide equal protection and due process of the law, if you don't require unanimous jury verdicts like what just happened in New York, where this corrupt Democrat Juan Merchan, who donated to Biden illegally under New York law, and whose adult daughter Lauren Merchan is raising millions of dollars off of her father's unprecedented criminal trial of a former and likely future president, requiring his recusal under New York statute. When you violate constitutional rights as a government official, if you violate constitutional rights as a private citizen colluding with government officials, you face very serious felony liability under 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights and violating civil rights under the color of law. And those are up to 10 years in prison. They're no joke. And the Trump 47 Justice Department must open criminal probes on this on day one.
I hate it if there was some bookkeeping error somewhere in the White House. What standing does Arizona have? How could the Attorney General or DA or whoever of Florida push these charges forward?
Well, you remember you have this criminal conspiracy, the overt acts of this criminal conspiracy by President Biden himself. His fingerprints are on all four of these criminal prosecutions, with Matthew Colangelo going from the number 3 office in the Biden Justice Department, a senior political appointee to Bragg's office in New York City. You had Jonathan Sue, President Biden's deputy White House counsel, colluding with General Counsel Gary Stern of the National Archives and Jay Bratt at the Justice Department to do the bogus Mar-a-Lago raid for presidential records Trump was allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. That was in Florida. So you have Moody's office as the AG. You have Chris Carr in Georgia because of the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, who hired her dumb, unqualified boyfriend, Nathan Wade, and he was dumb enough to bill his time to Fulton County taxpayers. They got COVID funds to do this, federal COVID funds. Nathan billed his time to meet with the Biden White House, including the Biden White House counsel, 16 hours, $250 an hour. He was dumb enough to put this on paper. So that was obviously about the Trump case. Otherwise, he couldn't have billed his time for those 16 hours with the Biden White House. He couldn't bill his time to go to the White House Easter egg roll. So, there's clear evidence that Biden's is directly involved with all four of these unprecedented Republic-ending criminal indictments of Trump. This is a criminal conspiracy by Biden, Jonathan Sue, Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, Jack Smith, Jay Bratt, Gary Stern, Judge Juan Merchan, Lauren Merchan, Tanya Shutkin in D.C., who put an illegal gag order on Trump. There are so many Biden Democrat prosecutors, judges, witnesses, and operatives who are part of this criminal conspiracy. At a minimum, they are fact witnesses, and they should be subpoenaed so we can gather facts when Trump 47 Justice Department's up and running. But many of them are co-conspirators.
Mike Davis, naming names. My last question for you. I got very frustrated at the most recent Fauci hearings, but it's been like this for a while, where they grill him, like, oh, what a grilling. And then he just walks up and then they go away. And that's it. Like, nothing ever happens to them. There's enough plausible deniability, and these guys just walk away. Can't the Biden White House do the same thing here? Like, Merrick Garland the other day was asked about Colangelo. He's like, I don't know. He decided to move to New York. What do you want me to do? Right? How can you then elevate this from these very frustrating hearings which go nowhere to an actual trial? They got Trump in the courtroom. They put him in jail. They were able to take it to the next level, more so than just a hearing. How do we do that?
Yeah, you have to issue subpoenas. You have to get their documents. You have to have staff depositions. You have to have public hearings. You need to have people who actually know what the hell they're doing when they're having these public hearings instead of the amateur hours. The amateur hours at these public hearings with these House Republicans who don't know how to ask the right questions. We need to have civil lawsuits. We need to have criminal enforcement right now by these DAs and these AGs all across the country who were affected by COVID. Remember this, Tony Fauci funded the birth of COVID in the Wuhan lab. Illegally, he funded gain-of-function research. He lied about it to Congress. He covered it up. He engaged in a criminal conspiracy to cover it up. Millions of people have died across the world, just about the entire world. Billions of people had their lives seriously altered for years, and we lost trillions of dollars in treasure. And that's because of Tony Fauci, this mad scientist who funded this very dangerous, illegal gain-of-function research in China.
Let's go. Let's get after some of these guys. Let's take it up a notch. Mike Davis, founder of the Article 3 Project. Remember the name. Maybe Trump's next attorney general. I'd love to see this more so than just on the TV. Let's get this in action. Mike, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's up to you now. Both of our last guests said we've crossed the Rubicon, but the previous guest said we've crossed it, but let's go back. But that's the point of crossing the Rubicon, is you can't go back. That's what that means, crossing the Rubicon. You can't go back. Once it's done, it's done. The cast is die, as Julius Caesar said when he crossed it. The die is cast. This is it. It's game on. What are we going to do? Just keep taking it? We're going to keep taking it? Or we're going to do what Mike Davis said there. Let's start going on some offense, as if you need another reason to vote for Donald Trump. Mike Slater, The First TV. Spread the word.